This is Gnembon's zombie spawner copper farm. And so is this. And this is a tutorial for it. To begin with, you need to find a zombie spawner, and it has to be at least 20 blocks above where bedrock starts forming. There's a good one. Let's have a look. Y34, no problem. Clear out any chests and then place torches around the spawner so that you don't have interruptions while you're working. And also come into the corners and on the third block up from the floor, place a torch on each corner. If you've got a corner missing, just add one in. And now dig out this area so that you have a space that's 9 by 9. So that's 4 on each side of the spawner. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, 3 and 4, 3 and 4, and same here. And for the moment, block off all the sides, just again so that you don't get unwelcome interruptions. And if you want to light up any tunnels coming off the spawner dungeon, go for it. It'll save you time later on. Dig out the area 9 by 9 and to a height of 4. Leave the blocks that you place the torches on. Now that that's done, just place torches around the rest of the floating blocks. This just ensures that you don't end up with zombies spawning in your corners. Now that you've done that, remove the torch on top of the spawner and place 2 blocks on top and fill in the whole of your ceiling with glass. So there we go, that's the start of our setup. Now this farm is to a certain extent directional. If you've watched Gnembon's video, you'll know that this works by calling in zombie reinforcements. You have to have your game set on hard, and the reinforcements are called in by having snow golems attack the zombies. The golems have to be arranged along either the east or west wall. That means that the reinforcement tunnels, where the zombies will be spawned and run down towards the central chamber, run north-south. So decide which side you want the zombies to fall down on, north or south. I want them to fall down on the south side. So then go over to the other side, for me that's the north, and we're going to dig out a space in this wall. It's going to be 5 wide and 3 high and 3 deep. So 1, 2 and 3. And block up anything that you need to beyond that. If there's a hole that goes up, don't worry about it. That's going to work in our favour. This gap in the wall here will eventually be blocked with glass or stone or whatever you want. But we're coming to the back here and we want to dig up above the level of the glass floor. So grab a bit of scaffolding. That's our floor level. We want to go up 5 more above the floor. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Now that we've got this, we want to dig out the space above the floor. So there we are, that's the glass floor. And this one will be 3. So now that we've got this first section dug out 5 high and 3 deep and 5 wide, we're going to dig out the rest of the area directly above the glass roof of the spawner. First I'm going to dig out 5 rows at a height of 4, then 5 rows at a height of 3, and 1 row to a height of 2. Now at the low end, dig out these 2 rows of stone just to a depth of 1, and replace the first row here next to the glass with packed ice. Now that that's done, place a row of signs on this level here. Come back to the other side, dig out the stone that's here and replace it with 2 rows of glass blocks. now we're going to put 6 rows of glass blocks, 1 block high. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and fill it in right the way across. It should come to just 1 short of the spawner. Now that that's done, come back to this low end again, and we're going to dig out this trench that's 5 long to a depth of 4 more blocks. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now break back into your central chamber, block up the hole behind you, and come back to the other end, get rid of your scaffolding, and fill in the gap here with glass blocks or with stone, whichever takes your fancy. Now we're going to dig out the whole floor of this central chamber to a further depth of 3 below the spawner. So 1, 2, and 3. And that's what we've got so far. Now come to the side with your packed ice, and along this wall we're going to dig out 2 rows of stone the full width of the chamber. And we're going to leave a gap, and this second row we're going to replace with packed ice right the way along. Now facing towards the packed ice, we're going to come to the left corner and place 2 glass blocks. We're going to come to the right corner and place a glass block and a glass pane. This will give us a gap that is 5 blocks wide. On the next row above, we're going to place 5 signs. Now grab magma blocks, and directly next to the packed ice we're going to knock out 1, 2, and 3 and replace them with magma blocks. We're going to do the same on the other side, 1, 2, and 3, and replace them with magma blocks. And now we're going to dig out the rest of the floor and replace the whole lot with glass blocks. Now on this back wall away from the packed ice, we're going to place a glass platform. So we start with 1 in the corner, and then 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it should sort of snugly fit in the magma blocks. We're going to do the same on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We end up with that shape. Now bring your buckets of water, and we're going to place 1 in this corner and 1 in this corner. And that creates a water flow that's going to push any zombies coming from this spawner across the floor and into this trough. So the next thing to do is to dig out 2 more rows in this trough, and then extend what we've dug right the way under the floor, but only to a width of 5. And we're going to take it back 10 blocks, including this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. That should put us 1 further back than the glass floor. Now you have to decide which side you want your snow golems on. You can put them on the east or the west. It is far better to put them on the eastern side. Putting them on the western side creates a situation where the zombie reinforcements can get jammed and won't readily move forward into the chamber. So now we're going to face the wall where we want the golems. For me, that's the east. And under this first row of glass, we're going to dig out 3 more blocks. And we're going to do that right the way along for 9 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now we're going to break through this back wall here. We're going to dig out any blocks that are blocking our drop down. Block it back up again. And now in front of this wall, dig out 5 blocks. And dropping into that trough, place 2 gates, leave a gap of 1, place 2 more. Come up, place 2 in front of each of those, and then 2 rows of 1 in front of the outermost ones. So you've got this shape, flick them all open. Now we're going to dig out the entire floor, including the snow golem area, a further 1 block. Now come to the side with the packed ice, come to the back wall, and we're going to dig out to a height of 2. We're going to go 5 blocks wide, and we're going to go back 2 blocks in total. So like this, come to the back wall and dig up until you come into our drop zone. Now that that's done, dig out another row of 5 in front of this short wall. And now underneath the packed ice, place 5 glass blocks. And underneath that, 5 top half slabs. Crouch and come back under, and on the slabs, place signs. Crouch and come back into the main chamber. Place 5 gates underneath the slabs. And now we're going to place 7 rows of 5 going back through the chamber, and you might find it easier to flick the gates open as you go. And 7 should bring you right in front of the trough. There we are. Now that that's done, we've got to get our snow golems in. So come to your snow golem chamber, and we're going to dig out these 2 rows at the back to a length of 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do the next row, and fill the space you've made with glass. And now cover the first row of glass with blocks of glass and wrap it round to the end like that. And we're putting bottom half slabs between the blocks of glass and the gates. Now come to the packed ice end and place oak trapdoors on the first 6 bottom half slabs. The first one's going to be quite difficult to place. There we go. Check that it flips up like that. Now the rest will be fine. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Place another one on top of each of those. And flip them all up. Now facing towards this far end, we're going to place trapdoors right the way along. Flip those up. They should line up with the trapdoors you've just placed. And now we can put our snow golems in. The trapdoors should keep them in this trough, but if you're worried about it, just put a row of waste blocks along the top. Now they definitely can't get out. So again, standing with our backs at the packed ice end, we're going to go down to the opposite end, place a trapdoor at the top and at the bottom of these 2 blocks, flip them, and now we've got to make our snow golems and keep them in place. So crouch and place a waste block against the top trapdoor. Dig out some space at the side here, and we're going to place a trapdoor at the top of the waste block and on the floor below it. Get rid of the waste block, and now build your snow golem in this space. So it's simple enough. 2 blocks of snow and a carved pumpkin on top. There's our golem. But we want to push him into the block behind. So leave a space and put 2 waste blocks on the next block. Put pistons against the waste blocks, facing sideways towards the trapdoors and the golem. Get a lever, put it on a waste block, flick it, and that pushes the trapdoors. Flip them open, and we have a snow golem in a little cubicle. When he stops jumping around, put a glass block above his head. And now just repeat that until you have 9 golems in place. Make sure as you go back that you fill in your workspace at the side so you don't end up with snow golems in your walls. When you get to the last couple, you'll find you have to dig out some extra blocks. That's fine. When it comes to the last snow golem, put your glass block in first, and instead of putting down trapdoors to push across, you're going to put down stone to push across. So I would put one in the middle and then make your snow golem around it. So there we go, and one there. Get rid of that, put that in, and put in your pistons. There's all our snow golems. Dig your way out, being careful not to dig into the actual snow golem section. And get rid of any waste blocks that are left. There's our snow golems in place and ready for action. Now that our snow golems are happily ensconced, come back to the end with our trough. We're going to dig out these 2 rows directly under here. We're going to dig back 1 more so that we come into our drop down. And we're now going to dig out the entire floor to a depth of 2. And that includes where we've just been. So take this all the way back to the far wall. Now we are only making this 5 wide. We do not dig under the slabs next to the snow golems. Now pick a side, doesn't matter which one, and under this void, dig out 1 block at the bottom, place in the space 1 piece of scaffolding, and then 5 more across the gap. We're going to place buttons on top of the 5 pieces of scaffolding and gates on top of the buttons. It looks like there's a big gap, there isn't. And now I'm going to dig a very long tunnel. It's going to be 5 blocks wide, 3 blocks high, and 38 blocks long. And make sure that it's running either north or south. This is block number 1, 2, 3, and it's a good idea to light the tunnel as you dig it, so that you don't end up with unexpected demolition works. Once it's dug out, along the west wall you want to dig out another row 3 blocks high, the full length of the tunnel, then dig out 1 more block right along that western wall and fill it with glass blocks. Once you get to the one next to the scaffolding, put a magma block on it and a pressure plate on top. And now either cover the floor of the tunnel with glass panes or with chains that run this way along the floor so that you create channels. If you've watched Gnembon's video, you know that reinforcements spawn in the corner of blocks, and we don't want other mobs spawning in here. A skeleton or a creeper coming into the system could spell disaster. So it's chains or panes. And bring the chains right up to the start of the tunnel. Now be sure when you're making this not to put any chains on the glass. Once the tunnel's done, come back into your main chamber, put a row of glass blocks next to the scaffolding. Come down to the other end of the chamber, and under this we're going to put a row of glass. And stepping up 1, we're going to build another tunnel. Same dimensions as that one. So 3 high, 5 wide, and 38 long. Start your count of 38 from this block, and don't forget to also dig out an extra row on the western side and a trough in the floor filled with glass and a magma block and pressure plate at the end. And line the floor again with chains or glass panes. Now when placing your chain or your glass panes, stop 1 short of the beginning of the tunnel. Once your tunnel is done, dig out this last row of stone. Dig out 1 more at the end and put a row of scaffolding along it. Don't put buttons on top of the scaffolding, but this time instead put chains on top of it. And now on the roof directly above the scaffolding, put a row of trapdoors. Now come across to the other side of the chamber, Place a row of gates on top of the glass blocks at the front of the tunnel here. Flip them open. Put another row in front of those and flip those open as well. And now you want to place water source blocks against each of these uppermost gates. So if you crouch and place it, you won't shut the gate when you do it. So we need one at one side, one in the middle, one at the other side, and that will turn the ones in between into source blocks. Now for the next part, you're going to need scaffolding probably to stand on, just so you can get up there without interfering with the gates. We want to waterlog each of these slabs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's 5 already done. Get rid of your scaffolding, and you can see that the water comes right up to the end of our gates. Now come back to this end where the water's placed. Place 2 rows of wall, and now we're going to place 3 more rows of wall, but we're going to put cobwebbing on top of each of those 3. So 1, 2, 3. So if we have a look, we've now got 5 rows of wall. The first has got gates over it, the second has nothing, and the last 3 have cobweb. Now place 2 rows of 3 wall with cobwebs on top of each of those, and 2 rows of 1 wall, again with cobweb. And we should have a gap between the last of the wall and this row of glass. Now, speaking of this row of glass, hop over and place a row of stairs on top of it. And we're going to dig down here to a depth of 3. So that's 1, 2, and 3. And now dig out the entirety of the floor right the way down to the other end. Dig out underneath the scaffolding too. Now we're at the end with the bulk of the wall. We're going to dig out here yet another tunnel, 3 blocks high, 5 blocks wide, 38 blocks long, with an extra row dug out on the western side, starting 1 block in from where the scaffolding is. And again, that western end is going to have a trough filled with glass, magma block, and a pressure plate. And again, line the floor of your tunnel with glass panes or chains. And make sure that you stop the chains level with the magma blocks. And on top of them, we're going to put 2 rows of gates. Flick them all open. Now, underneath the scaffolding, dig out a row 1 block wide, 5 blocks long. Fill it with soul sand. Dig out another row in front of that and fill it with wall. Now place on top of the wall 1, 2, and 3 waste blocks. Put glass blocks in between. And now put water source blocks on each of your soul sand. Put another row of glass. And again, you want water source blocks. And now you want to waterlog each of your scaffolding, and you want water source blocks on each of the row below. Fill the gap with glass blocks to cut it off, and that should give us a little water elevator. Now come down to the other end, dig out directly underneath our drop zone, 1 block wide, 5 blocks long. You can fill it with soul sand if you want, but you may find it easier at the moment to fill it with dirt, because we're later going to put water here and we want them all to be source blocks, so growing kelp is the simplest way to do that. Now, you guessed it, we're going to dig out another tunnel Again, 3 blocks high, 5 blocks wide, and 38 blocks deep. And yet again, we're going to dig out an extra row of the western wall. Yet again, it'll have a trough at the side with a magma block and a pressure plate at the top end, and the rest filled with glass. And again, line the floor with glass panes or chains. Now bring the chains right up to the last row of the tunnel before you've got your dirt or your soul sand. And again, put 2 rows of gates on top of the chains. And yet again, flick them open. Now before we finish off this side of the chamber, we've got to put water source blocks in here. Standing in the mouth of the tunnel, dig out 5 blocks in front of your dirt, replace them with wall, and then place 1 and 2 waste blocks, fill the rest with glass, and now we want to get up to the top, and as you place in water, you can place kelp in it. We do not want to waterlog this scaffolding. Now what you do want to do, if you can, is waterlog those stairs. If you stand in this tunnel and click a bucket of water on each of them, it should not be too hard. Now once you've got all your water in, it's quite a simple business to put kelp right the way into the top. Once all the kelp's in, jump back down, break it all, and replace the dirt at the bottom with soul sand. Just make sure you're not standing in the way when you do it. Up at the top, place a full row of water source blocks right the way along. Okay, if that happens, just put a block in front of it and remove it, and it will update the block. So the easiest way to handle this now is just to drop straight down and feed yourself through the system, which is a bit of a pain at the cobwebs. Just let yourself slowly work through. Try not to drown. And drop down into the bottom again. Now that we're down here, we're going to make the floor. So on this side, which is the short bubble column and the 3 blocks in the bottom of the wall, we're going to dig out the floor going back 5. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5. And replace all that with magma blocks. Dig out the other side going back 4. And replace all that with magma blocks. Now before we dig out this last row, we're going to place 1, 2, 3 gates. And now carefully dig out the whole row rather than your gates. And flick them open, by the way. And just place a magma block at each end. Now you want to take out your waste blocks, and next we want to dig the kill chamber. Now a note on the kill chamber, I have run this farm for several hours making various tests and what have you, and I have found that if I put the kill chamber on this side, which is the side most of them are going to drop down after they've been converted to drowned, they tend to bank up here. So put your kill chamber on the opposite side, on the side that has the 3 holes at the bottom. So we're going to drop down now, and we're going to dig down 2 more rows underneath our gates. So that's 1 and that's 2. Now facing towards the side with the 3 holes, we're going to dig out to a depth of 3 blocks. There we are. Now a note on spawners, you have to be within 16 blocks for them to activate. If we go down any deeper than this, we're going to be 17 blocks away. So our kill chamber is directly under the magma blocks. The drown are going to drop here. This is where we are going to kill them, so we need to set up hoppers and chests to catch their drops. So dig out the 3 directly under the slot, dig out 3 more, dig out 1 block deeper each side, and then dig down 2 blocks for those. Take out the bottom one under each corner and take out the back blocks just to a depth of 1. Now on the bottom here we're going to place 2 chests right in the back corner, same on the other side, and now we're going to run hoppers into them and hoppers into the hoppers and hoppers along here. Just throw something in to check that the hoppers are indeed feeding into the chests. And next we're going to put in hopper mine carts. Place a rail on top of a hopper, place a hopper mine cart on top of the rail, and knock out the rail itself. Now you want to place a piston facing down directly over the hopper minecart. Grab a block of your choice and put it underneath the piston, and then use a lever to activate the piston, and voila, you have a block embedded in your hopper minecart. Do that once more. Now for the third, we're going to knock out these 2 blocks, put in a top half slab that matches your floor, just in this first one, and now put down your rail and the hopper minecart, and that allows you to select the rail and remove it. Now put another slab underneath to make a full block here, and again piston facing down, block, and embed the block. Now I'm going to build the sides here back up 1 more, and I'm going to put a top half block, and I don't want babies jumping in, so I'm going to put a row of trapdoors here, and because I don't like the leaking roof, I'm going to line the roof with trapdoors as well. So there we are, this is all now ready to go. You can put a ladder or 2 in here if you're worried about entity cramming, but I find that the drown tend to jump around on them too much. And the only other thing you have to do is make yourself a way out. All you have to do now is make your way back up to the top, into the spawning chamber, and knock out all the torches. I would start with the floating ones. How you do this is up to you. Digging across or using scaffolding might be a good way to do it. And take out the torches at the back of the spawner first. There we go, 1 more. And if you want, make yourself a little viewing window with tinted glass. All that's left now is to turn it on. So you've got to set it to hard or you won't get reinforcements. There we go. Wow, they came straight in. Let's get back down to our kill chamber. There we are. The snow golems are already doing their job, aggroing our zombies. And here comes some reinforcements. They're starting to convert. They're starting to drop down. And I can start to kill them. On 117.1 you should get around 800 or so drops per hour, and you should get about 250 copper. And there's our first bit of copper. Yay! We're getting a lot of zombies and so many drowned. That is excellent.